you are just joining us on Facebook Live, I'm Lauren Van Hemert from RDU on Stage, and I'm here with Germana Sharp. I'm very excited
Hello.
about this. The very talented, I should say multi-versatile, because you do
Thank you.
so many, you wear a lot of different hats. So I want to talk about that
Yeah.
because you're not a one-trick pony.
No, no.
You are vocalist, actress. Are you doing directing? What kind of work behind the camera? Because
I'm getting into that. I really am interested in production. Period. Like stage management, director. That's nothing to take lightly. um, I've done a few things as far as like before Sonoris Road Theater actually transitioned to Pure Life. There were a few opportunities that they gave me as far as stage managing and directing that I took upon myself and I decided to do. So I got my name in that way and I got my experience in that way. I also directed a film, an independent film that will be out pretty soon with an NC production company called Easy Day Entertainment. So that was my first time doing film, like direct. That was, the creator of the production company gave me that opportunity, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Of course, with his help and things like that. So we went ahead and did that, and that I just enjoy it as much as as much as being on the stage. It is a lot of work, and it is like tedious, and you have to be very. I think as an actor or as an entertainer, I kind of got a little cheat code because you kind of know when you direct, you're like, okay, I see it like this, and you can tell the actor by doing what you see. So it's a little bit, got a little cheat code there, but as far as like how angles work, how cameras work, how the lighting work, how what type of shot you're getting, so you can feel the emotion of a character. I'm in love with all of that. I'm very interested in how all of that works and how it comes across on the screen and how it makes the audience think. Um, because a lot of times the actor doesn't have to say anything. They can be placed somewhere, they can do something, or the camera angle can be a certain way, and it can give you a sense of, oh, they're in danger, oh, they're happy, oh, they're enjoying, So I thought that was really, really, really interesting, and I'm trying to get more into that, so I can have my name on that as well. I think I think I can definitely make a splash with that as well, but I've always been interested in production and stuff and how things work. I think it's important to know um, how things work behind the screen and behind the camera, just as much as how they work on the stage. So yeah, doing all of that, but I'm just putting my foot in the water. I'm not totally submerged right now. I've been great. I've been, graced with to be in the presence of talented theater directors and film directors, and I try my best to learn from them and watch their things, and just take it from there. Constantly learning about that. So
do you think, I mean, we're like totally jumping ahead and we're going to backtrack in a second,
right,
but
right.
do you think that directing and exploring different mediums makes you a better actor and vocalist or entertainer? And then conversely, I mean, you talked about the cheat code about talking to
Right.
actors. So do you think being an actor also makes you a better director or stage manager or working behind the scenes?
Right. So in my opinion, it does, in a sense that if you're an actor, you're an actor. We can tell if somebody, like, okay, that kid has it. That kid isn't that, or that kid is, he has it. It's just some. So, but that's also, I think it is because when you know your industry and you don't just know your title, like, okay, I'm an actress, and that's all I know. So it's very important to me to research. It's very important to me to know the history of acting. know the history of entertaining and how things work and how to capture, basically. Because when you are entertaining someone or people, they're coming to be taken away from whatever reality they have going on. And the way that you act, the way that you convey a character on stage, it's very telling. It's very, they can either hate you for being the villain, and that they could either like, I really hated her, I just could not stand her, and then that's a plus, that's a positive. Or they can really love you, or they can really empathize and sympathize with you, because your character displayed that, and that's how you wanted it to come across. So I think that as far as branching out, besides just what you are known for, like just being an actor or just being a director, I think it is important that you learn the different aspects. Like in the medical field, there's just not doctors. There's there just aren't doctors, nurses. There's medical assistants. There's little pieces that make things flow. The doctors don't do it all by themselves, but I'm sure, I would like to think that they know who to go to in regards to how certain things work that they may not be too privy on. So they do the main thing, like the surgery and stuff like that, but they need surgical tools, so there's surgical technicians. They need x-rays, so there are technicians for that as well. And a lot of times people don't have the time, or a lot of times they just want to know that what I didn't just come from me. What I did worked because it was a team effort. So I think that's very, very important. And yes, in my opinion, I know a lot of people probably don't think this, so I'm gonna keep saying in my opinion. In my opinion, I do think branching out, learning just different aspects of your industry is very important. And it shows that you're serious. If you are serious about it, it will show people that you are serious. And you sometimes you get in trouble because you don't know what you thought you knew. And a lot of people can pull the wool over your eyes. And if you are at least a little bit knowledgeable about certain things, no one can, you won't be that pushover. So yeah, I think that it's beneficial. I think that, yes, it's important to know a little bit about directing and producing and things like that, and certain lights. Because a lot of times I get on stage and I see certain lights, and I have said this out of my mouth before, and I'm just like, can I get that light right there? The one, and then it's not the same light. And they're like, which? And I'm like, no, that light right there, it didn't do the same thing as that light over there. So a lot of times it's just like, dang, what is it? What do I need? What do I want? And if I knew, or if I was to research and learn a little bit about it, then, I could better, I could come across better to what I needed. But yeah, it's very important. I think it is, in my opinion. Like I said, some people don't think that, but I think that. So.
Well, and I think I agree with you. I think you need to be knowledgeable. What I want to ask you is, when you are a Black artist,
Right.
is the bar set higher? Do you have to know more, try harder, be better? Is the bar set higher? Is there a different standard?
The bar is set. There is a different standard. To me, the bar is set higher because a lot of times, just to be totally raw right now with you, I don't want to be the Black person on set that don't know. Because I could be the only Black person on the cast, or I could be one of two Black people, or I could be, on cast or on the crew, and I don't want to be that Black person who don't know nothing. Like, and for whatever reason, whether it be just society has put this on us, and this is how I've come up, and this is what I've seen throughout my time in the industry. It's just a thing where it's like, I don't want to be that, I'm the only Black person here. I got to be at least on the same level if not a little bit above, if not an inch above. And yes, even performing, when I perform, I don't want to be and I put a lot of stress on myself doing this. I don't want to be the person who doesn't know the lines, who can't get them. And not saying that any of this is a bad thing, but this is what has been has been driven, like has been instilled in my mind by, like, I just don't want to be that person, because they already think what they're thinking of me because I'm Black. So that's how I see it. That's how I see it. And it's like, yeah, we have to be 10 times better. We have to be, we have to be a lot more talented. We have to be, because we can't make the mistakes, because then the consequences or the repercussions or the rebuttal for whatever mistake that we made will be amplified. And that's not something that we should be subjected to, but it is something that I've seen, and it is something that I've heard stories of. And it's a shame, because I know in my adult mind that it's okay to not know everything and to not be good at everything. But when you are put in that situation, or when you're put in that environment, like, I cannot not be good. I cannot be subpar. I just can't. I have to be better than the best person here. That's just the train of thought that I have, that I'm really trying to, like, get rid of. But, at the same time, it's a work ethic thing. At the same time, I'm just like, no, I still gotta be better. I still have to do things 10 times as better as the best person. I still have to make sure that all my T's are, crossed, all my I's are dotted. But yes, as a Black artist, there is a little bit more pressure. And we feel that because we feel the pressure of just being Black in a room of predominantly white cast, crew, whatever have you. So yes, and I'm saying this with such, like, angst, because it's a shame. It shouldn't be that way. And of course, as a well-functioning adult, it's okay to not be the best. It's all right. It's all right. Sometimes the best isn't the best. Come on now, like, we are good with that. But when you are put in that situation, it's always like, and it's stressful, because you have to make sure the whole time that you are clean, you are straight, everything is good. So yeah, I think that pressure is put on us as Black artists, because we're already feeling the pressure of just being Black. And people are watching us, and people are waiting. This is how I feel. People are watching me, and people are waiting for me to make the mistake. They're waiting for me to fall, and they're waiting for that reaction, and they're waiting for the excuse, and so it's just a whole bunch of things. Just a whole bunch of things. And if I can say, without going into too much detail, when I was playing, when I was to play Truvy in Steel Magnolias, I knew that this was a mostly white cast. I seen the original movie. I know what Steel Magnolias is. I was playing the part of Dolly Parton. Okay, me and Dolly Parton are polar opposites, right? So when I got that role, I felt like I have to be really good. Like, I have to be really good. So it was very, very, like, stressful. It's kind of like, if I'm not good, people are going to say this. And then I was thinking about the critique. So yeah, the pressure is there. It's definitely there. And I don't think it's ever going to be like something that isn't there.
Sometimes, I mean, one of the best performances I've seen is of yours was Blood Done Sign My Name at Raleigh Little Theater. And that was a gender bending performance, if I ever saw one. I mean, that was kind of an unexpected casting, but you were powerful and good.
Thank you so much. Joseph Miguel, great director, great director. He knows how to pull it out. And he knows when you are that person. So you are the role, and he lets it flow. He really does. He lets it flow because he goes through all these things, and then he's like, okay, so you are that person. Here's your role. Here's this and that. And then he gives you direction. But he knows that you are this person. So it's kind of like, I don't have much to do because you are, I mean, it's amazing what he does. But yeah, that was I researched and I studied. And to have the actual Eddie McCoy come and see me twice, it was it was kind of like, ooh, that was interesting because you're playing a man, and the man is there to see you play him, and you don't want to offend. And my thinking going into that was already, how does he feel about a woman playing him in such history changing events like this? Is that something that he would appreciate? I hope I'm not overstepping. Is he going to tell me like that was good? But
so what was his feedback? I didn't know he had come to see it twice.
Yeah, he loved it. He actually loved it. He saw it with Mike Wiley, who was the playwright, and then he came again with himself by himself, and he actually loved it. He actually was telling me stories about different scenes, like this is what happened when we did this and that. I remember when you said the stories and stuff. I remember that, like, it was really cool to listen to him and just know that all of these things that were on paper and that I'm speaking of, these are, real things. This is a real person who lived this. And it was relieved. I was relieved to know that I did him some justice. But yeah, I definitely went in there kind of like, oh man, I hope he doesn't I hope he doesn't feel like offended, or because a woman is playing this role and this is a real role. This isn't anything fake. So but yeah, I think that when you have roles, I'm willing to do roles and to mold them into, whatever I need to mold them into, or however I need to mold myself. But a lot of times it's just my thing. It's just that little nagging little thing, like, are you gonna do well? They're not gonna like you. They're gonna laugh at you. All those things that just bother you. I try to roll those back and put a mute button on those and just do the role and do my best at doing the role, making sure that when I do it, I'm knowledgeable about what I'm doing, especially if it's based on true events. And if it is something that calls for like comedy or my sympathy, or if I'm just in it, I'm just in that role. So yeah.
And I know, I mean, we're not going to get into too many details, but I do want to ask you about this, because part of having these conversations is to be raw and to be real and
yes.
to like just go there,
just
go
hang out. Yep.
Go where no white little girl has gone before, so I'm just gonna go there. When you have an experience like Steel Magnolias,
right,
and I feel like this could happen a lot to Black performers, and as I've interviewed people, I get hints of this.
Right.
So I feel like you're being put into a box. Mm-hmm. When you don't conform to the box.
Yep.
Are you labeled or I don't want to say blacklisted, because obviously nobody's
working. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Still, but are you labeled? Does it give you, I don't want to say bad rap or bad reputation, but does it hurt you in a way that it's not going to hurt your white counterparts? Your white counterparts are going to go out, audition for other roles, and they're right. But how, as a Black performer, when it doesn't work out,
when it doesn't work out, it's okay. So first, let me just say that whole situation, I felt very alone. Um, there were certain things that happened that were very unfair, that should not have happened, and I know would not have happened at most theaters. Okay, I'm gonna just say that, and I'm talking legally, I'm talking chain of command, I'm talking how things work when you do have any type of altercation or disagreement or worry, as an actor. Um, but I knew that I was not wrong, and I stand on that till this day. I'll stand on it till my last breath. For one, anyone being belligerent towards me will get a very equal or equal or more belligerent response. Retaliation. I never go into a situation with anyone where I'm hostile already. I don't initiate hostility. That there's no reason for that, right? I would much rather talk to you. I would much rather you talk to me, and I would much rather us be adults and we can agree to not be friends. I don't mind. That's not. I'm not there to make friends. We're here to do a show. But we have to be cordial. We have to be respectful, and we have to at least be to the point where we can get this show going, and we can actually, people who watch us wouldn't even know that there is something, and and there's been plenty of adults and plenty of people, whether it be on stage or at work in a corporate company, where people do that, right? So, but as far as, and I spoke to my fellow actors about this situation and things like that, and it's funny that you bring up Blacklisted, because a lot of them don't even believe that that could happen in such, a small community. But I believe that it can. I believe it's easier to happen in a small community. But at the same time, I am not worried. When something like that happens, you have to stand on your ground. You have to know that when, in my situation, I don't think it's unique, but I think it's something that if it would have happened to other folks or whatever, the outcome would have been a little different. Probably would have been a little worse. But what happened in that moment was not right. What happened in that moment, what happened after that moment was definitely not right. I was left by myself. No one asked how I felt. No one asked what happened. I did speak to the director about, what transpired. But I wasn't the one who was asked, how do you feel? Why do you feel? Anything. I didn't even know there were meetings going on. I was by myself on stage and backstage. I didn't know where anyone was at. That, and I'm talking about everyone. I'm just letting, like, everyone. So in that, I had to speak with certain people, and I felt attacked, and I felt like no one is trying to ask me, well, what happened? Why did you do that? Why did that? Like, no one asked me anything. I just felt really attacked. I felt attacked. And I was by myself. So if there is anything as far as getting a bad reputation being, or people giving you or saying something to other folks, or the director saying, well, I'm probably not going to do this because she did this last time and not her. That probably is definitely something that goes on. Most definitely. I do think, and I think that it probably is as Black creatives or Black artists, we don't get the second chance. We don't get to redeem. We don't get the redemption. We don't get, okay, well, I heard about this. I'll have to ask about the situation. I don't know what happened, but I do know that this audition was great. So let's see, because this is the first time I've ever heard about this from this artist, ever. We don't get that. We don't get, the second chances. We just automatically get labeled as a problem, someone a problem starter who doesn't, mesh well with other actors or cast and crew. Like we that's what we get. And we are easily written off, easily. So yeah, I'm as far as this situation goes, I'm not worried about it. I know that I trust that in myself. I know that I can get more and better for myself. I know that even though this is something that I love, and this is another reason why I know you can't do anything to hurt me in that way, especially if it's a lie. I'm going to go forward and I'm going to progress. And I don't need to stick on this moment. I'll always remember it, right? But I don't need to stay on that moment. If you want to bring it up, we can, and we can speak truth. But I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about that. And I know that what I did was the right thing.
Do you think, and I don't know, but as we're talking, this is what occurs to me. Mm-hmm. So I've heard of intimacy directors. So now we're all bringing in intimacy directors. Yes. To somebody to facilitate that. Yeah. And I'm all for it. Believe me, I'm saying it more tongue in cheek, but I'm an advocate for that. We have disability advocates. I did an interview last year, and somebody told me that she was a disability advocate for theaters, and she goes in and advises them how to make their theaters on stage and off stage a more accessible, inclusive environment.
Right.
You think as we navigate the civil unrest we're seeing right now in the entertainment industry, in the community, in the world, but particularly in our arts organizations, are we gonna have I don't even know what they would be called, but facilitators, mediators, anti-racist theater advocates? I don't know. Is that like the direction we need to go, so that we do have somebody there to protect our Black and Brown performers or Latinx performers?
Right. Yes. I think we need something. Diversity, so whatever you want to call it, a diversity, like they have them in corporate offices and companies. There's always that diversity person that you can go to if you feel that this was something that was done to you because of your race, gender, religion, whatever. Yes, I feel that we need someone to go to as Black artists. And when things are done to us, I feel we need someone to be unbiased. Mm-hmm. We need someone, like I was speaking when Raleigh Little Theater had their meeting, and I went to that, and I was telling Patrick, when we did Blood Done Sign My Name, we had someone come in and speak to the whole cast, because every day we had to come and rehearse these real, true, raw events. And we had to be subjected to the things that people were saying, people were doing, and we had to sit with the fact that at the end of all of this, no one was charged. The killer is still alive and well. He goes out, he's doing things, and to be subjected to that every day builds up, and it does something to you as an actor. So when Patrick had someone come in and speak to the whole cast, like not just the Black cast, not just the Black people in the cast, but the white people too. And we sat there and we expressed what we felt, what should have happened, why didn't it happen? Like, this is bullshit. This shouldn't have happened at all. Like, I do believe that when you do that, or when you have someone there to totally just be unbiased and listen to you and know and understand, and to take in what you're saying, like a mediator, kind of, especially when it's something where you're having a problem with another actress or a director, whatever, or stage manager. Most definitely, I think theaters need that, because a lot of times we may be too scared or too afraid to go to the director or stage manager because we don't want to be the problem. We don't want to become, oh, well, they're always complaining about this and that, such and such, and this is always something that they've always, like, and that directors, we don't want that director to go to the next director to go to the next director, and now we've become this thing, where we're always complaining about something. I definitely believe that that type of person is needed, in theater. Yeah.
And I think as our theaters, I mean, this is my belief. I supportive of all the solidarity statements that have come out. But just because you put out a solidarity statement doesn't give you a pass. Now you have to back it up with some action.
Right.
And I think that if you are a predominantly white theater company, you can't come up with those action steps yourself. You are going to need a facilitator to come in, a Black or brown facilitator, or person of color to come in, help you navigate those waters and create an action step.
Right. That a lot of times, in what I've been seeing a lot, and I'm not speaking on like any local, I really haven't been paying attention to too many. I've seen some, do things like Raleigh Little Theater definitely started rolling, get the ball rolling with their, coming in and having us sit and having this meeting and having us, express ideas on how they can get better with the inclusive. I love that. So there, but I'm starting to see that there are theaters that I feel are just saying this because the pressure is on, the fire is now on their ass.
Trendy thing to do right now, but a month let's on the hashtag and
never before have they actually expressed this in their shows, as far as casting roles for Black actors. We've never seen this. We've never seen an example of this solidarity that you are speaking of, but now you're doing it, or now you're speaking of it because, like, it's just like, okay, so you're doing it because of this whole thing that's happening in the world right now. Okay, maybe you didn't realize that you were doing all of these things before, and you have a realization now. Oh, hey, okay. But a lot of times they post that one thing and then that's it. We don't see nothing else. They just need you to know that they're for it too. They just need to put that out there because they don't want people coming to them asking, oh, so where's your post? So that marks that down. That marks that off the list.
Check the box. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of times I have seen action from very few, but at the same time, I can't wait to see what happens after all of this. Yeah.
Are things, so this is really interesting to me. Somebody called me from a much bigger city than Raleigh today and said, I love these conversations that you're having. can you help me start these kinds of conversations in this city that I'm in? And I was blown away. I was like, here I am sitting in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Right.
You are in a major metropolitan city. Surely
Yep.
there's room for the, but he said that in the city he's living in, it's worse. The division is worse. People aren't as open to these conversations. You're from Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Is it worse in Leaf City, the divisiveness versus a place like the Triangle?
Um. Okay, so a place like Pittsburgh. Oh God, a place like Pittsburgh. It's quite sad when I think about it, because so I can speak on some of the experience that my dad has had growing up in Pittsburgh. I went back every summer, but we ended up moving around when I was like 4 or 5. But I'm very familiar with Pittsburgh. I went back to college there and everything. So, but it's like we don't mingle. We don't, the black don't mingle here, the white don't mingle here, and they have their own thing going on as far as like the arts. Um, it is a little bit harder, a little bit more difficult, because it's been like this so long. Pittsburgh was a divisive city. Pittsburgh has an older demographic, so it's still that way, right? In most aspects, but that's why these conversations are really not being had as often. It's because we're so used to not having them. There's a like we just don't say anything, but we know you don't do this or you don't do that. And it's gotten better. I mean, there's been things where I've seen some artists and some theaters that are that have diversity there, but it's just like there's levels, and it shouldn't be, but there are so many levels in the arts and music and things like that. It's just and Pittsburgh is a gentrifying town as well. There's so much. I mean, they make most of their money on tourism, right? So it's kind of like we don't really care what we knock down to put right here. We want the money. We know that we're going to get the money. And with that comes there's a lot of racism, because Pittsburgh is half Jewish, old Jewish towns, and it's very like, yes, that's half Jewish, and then you have another half or another quarter of Catholic, and then you have back, but there are certain boroughs and towns that's just like black side, and then there are certain boroughs and towns that are white side. And just coming from a city like that, I can totally believe that in a bigger city these conversations are not being had, because if you try to have these conversations, no one's listening, or someone will say you'll start in trouble, or you're trying to make some type of trouble, when it's not even like that. It's just that you're trying to bring everybody together. You're trying to make sure that the diversity is there. It doesn't have to be one way. I shouldn't have to go all the way over here to perform for a black audience and then go all the way over here to perform for a white audience. It shouldn't have to be that way. But I do, like I said, I've seen a lot of the Pittsburgh theaters and things like that are, a little bit more. But I can totally believe, yes, in Pittsburgh, it is like that. It is. There is
so fascinating to me, because I would think it would be the opposite. But then
yeah,
I grew up in Miami, and it's a big
yeah,
city. I'm not sure these conversations happen there. So
exactly,
I can relate.
exactly. And I don't know if a lot of times, and you know what though, what's funny? Pittsburgh has the most, like, there are so many interracial relationships. So many, so many. I grew up seeing Black and white relationships. Um, I was kind of sort of am, that's another thing, in a Black and white relationship. And, you know, my nieces and nephews are mixed and they're in Pittsburgh. And it's just, but we don't have these conversations. And it's just unspoken. It's just these things that are known. We know, but we're not going to speak of them. And I don't know if it's just like, I don't want to talk about it because it's not important to me. So don't come to me with that. That's not something that we need to worry about because everything is fine over here. We don't need to stir anything up. We're good. That's what I think most of that is. And it's crazy because, like I said, Pittsburgh is an old city. It's an older demographic. And the only way that you get a younger demographic is because of the colleges. But yeah, it's not spoken, and it's kind of weird. But when you dig deeper into the history of those big cities and you dig deeper into the people and how they're raised and how they pass things along throughout the generations, you kind of get an understanding of, okay, we need to start shaking the table a little bit because this is not okay. Like, we need to start speaking up. We can't just keep living like this, like Martians. Like, somebody has to step out and say something. And that's why I think the young man came to you, because no one is stepping out and saying anything. If we just had a little spark, all of a sudden there would be a floodgate of people coming trying to tell their story. But you know, most artists, like I said, when you're in a big city like that, you have a lot of connections. And most artists are kind of scared because they don't want to ruin their start before they even get started. So yeah, I can definitely believe that. But Pittsburgh, yes, it's definitely divided in that sense.
I'm fascinated by, like, you know, I've been having a lot of these conversations on camera and off camera because I'm trying to educate myself and become more informed and really become more
Right.
enlightened.
Yeah.
I keep saying I'm a work in progress, but the more I have these conversations, the more I'm like, ooh, that's something I never thought about. I never considered, you know, what's happening in big cities versus what's happening here, because
right,
for the most part, we just live in our bubbles. So
exactly. And it's just like we're used to it. We're used to our bubble. We may have a bump here and there, but it's not like a big bump. It's not like a total crash. And sometimes you need a total crash. Like this like everything that's happening now with the civil unrest. Like sometimes you need this. Sometimes we sleep too long. So someone needs to hit that alarm clock, and it's uncomfortable. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be comfortable, but if you want to change, you know, change is never comfortable. Everybody's used to, you know.
And you have to have the uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
I mean, you and I, you're sharing the mic today. You're on. She's on Instagram, on taking over the RTO on stage Instagram. So you can go over there after we're done and post it before, and we're just gonna post later. But when I had even suggested here, hey, let's get this going in the Triangle. Let's get the Share the Mic program going.
Mm-hmm.
No one. Crickets. That's why everyone's sharing my mic, because I was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to keep sharing my mic then.
Right. I'll just pass my mic along. Here you go. Right. Yeah, I think and it's so disappointing, and it's so angry, because why not have these, like, most people have children, right? Most people have children who are old enough to understand meanness and old enough to understand what's nice and what's mean. So not necessarily why it's right or why it's wrong, but they understand that that is mean just because it's mean. Not, so why would, if I had like, why wouldn't you want to at least say something? It doesn't have to, you don't have to make noise. You don't have to go out here and get on a bullhorn and lead a brigade. Like, it's, if that's not for you, that's not for you. But you can do things behind the scenes. You can talk to people. You can let people know, hey, this is a conversation because I want to learn something. I never knew this. Why is it like that? Like, or this is a conversation because I see that this is happening, and I've seen what these people are marching for, and I never realized that this keeps happening to these certain people. I never realized that. Like, just anything, and I don't understand why people just don't want to say anything. What makes you just want to be in a world where you're just monotone or you don't have any voice at all?
I think and I think people are so afraid of saying the wrong thing that they just
Right.
won't say anything.
Yeah.
And I I wish people would just listen to each other more and not be so afraid to say the wrong thing. Because I think,
Right.
honestly, when we say the wrong things, that's when we can learn something.
Yep. Yep.
It
Because
becomes
it's
from an authentic place and a place of curiosity, not
yeah, yeah.
or hate.
Because like I said, my best friend, um, who was once, I think it's important to state this, who was once my boyfriend. So we were in a relationship. He's white. We had there's been instances, there's been situations before George Floyd, and there's been situations before Breonna Taylor, and we have to speak on these things because they actually affected us as a couple. These conversations for him were difficult, and for me they were difficult too, because I had to learn some type of patience. He honestly did not know, and he honestly wanted to know. He honestly was not trying to be mean, rude in any type of way. He's not even that type of person. His spirit is so good and warm. He's a great person. So what he didn't know, it came off as, like you said, saying the wrong thing. And me not being that patient and ready to just go, I'm like, hold up, what? Hold, no, like, I'm not, so I'm just defending and I'm just, blasting him. But it's really, let me explain this. Let me show you what's going on. And we have these uncomfortable conversations, because sometimes you're faced with having these uncomfortable conversations. We were faced with having these uncomfortable conversations. We lived together, so it was kind of like, did you hear? Did you see? Did you know? Like, have you read? So anything that, would come up, we would have those conversations. What do you think about this? Why do you think this happened? And I would have to explain to him, things aren't the same for me as they are for you. And he was so open, and till this day he understands that he will never understand what it is to be Black. And I appreciate that, just that alone, because he could honestly say, I will never understand what it is. I don't know how it is to be, and I wouldn't even care, because it's true. And he understands that he could never try to fix our problems. So don't suggest don't suggest that I do something in order to fix it, because it's not going to. We've seen examples of things where it just didn't work. So just having those uncomfortable conversations, just having those conversations with people who are genuinely curious, who really don't know, and letting them express. And that's from me. I had to learn letting them express it in their way and not taking it personal. Because a lot of times people do not, they just don't understand. They just don't.
They don't know what they don't know.
Exactly. And I would rather you ask me and tell me I don't know, so I'm asking blah, 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 instead of assuming or instead of saying, well, why don't you just da, 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 da. Like, yeah. So just having those conversations and making sure, I think I'm getting a little bit more light. Okay. And making sure and making sure that you know, you just sit, you make sure that you open your mind and your heart. And it is tiring. It is something that you probably don't want to do, but it's so necessary because we cannot keep not sharing the mic. We cannot keep, not, keeping quiet on these issues just because they don't affect you or just because you're not part of that group that it's affecting at the moment. We have to.
And you mentioned parents, and I am a parent, and this is what I have to say about this is a lot of us, I love my parents. I worship my parents. I'm very close to them. And if I didn't do that, my mom would give me the look and into submission. But I was raised because they are older, with certain belief systems that I didn't even understand until I was a grown up. And several years ago, I participated in this class, this YWCA class called Study Circles. And I remember coming home from one of those sessions. It was the first time in my life I ever had a conversation about race. And the purpose of the class was to bridge the achievement gap in my son's school. So it was a group of white and Black parents, single parents. There was just a big group of us from all different ethnicities, races, backgrounds, cultures, everything. And I remember coming home and telling my husband, and it was a 6-week class, so about maybe the third week, it's up to us to break that cycle with our children.
Right.
However that looks, we can't make the same. Now that I understand what my parents did and the subliminal things they taught me, it's my responsibility now to break that cycle.
Right.
And so I think parents have that responsibility, but that's a very hard place to sit. So
Yep, I'm sure. I'm very sure. Yeah. Because sometimes I've seen a lot of stories where the kids are teaching the parents and or the parents say something that hurts the feelings of the child, and they're just not understanding why this came out of the mouth of their parent, or this is probably the first time they've ever experienced that from their parent. So it's very foreign to them. They never knew that their parent would be like this, and they never thought that they never thought their parents thought like this. So yeah, breaking the cycle and just making sure that
not teaching your children to be, my husband, when my children were really young, we used to say, we're going to teach our children not to see color. That's bullshit. Children see color, so you've got to address that. And I think that's a big downfall. We all think we're being great because we're teaching our children to be colorblind or not see color.
Right.
It's a disservice to them.
Yep. Because you can learn. Like, I had a friend who was Hispanic girl, and we played so much. But it wasn't the fact that, I didn't see color. I knew that she was Hispanic. She knew that I was Black. It was just that we saw personalities. We saw attitude, we saw respect, and we knew that, you know, you like what I like what you like. We could play all the time. We could do this. Like, it wasn't something like, I didn't not like her because she was Hispanic. You know, there was no reason for me not to like her. And, you know, but if I was to not like her, it wouldn't be because of her skin color. So, and my father was very stern, very assertive and aggressive on bullying, not being a bully, not picking on people, just being like prejudiced. And he was very stern on none of that here in my house, around me. None of that flies, because you need to judge the person on like who they are to you and how they treat you. If they're detrimental, negative to you, then of course you need to react in a way that is healthy for you and for them to stay away. But you don't just initially go up to someone or not mess with anyone or not do anything with anyone because of who their color. So that's how I was raised, and that's that, you know, introduced a lot of different things to me, and to learn, and just not, you know, to ask questions about different cultures, about everything. So you know, when you introduce yourself to love and respect, a lot of other doors open. But when you are when you just have hate all the time, and you just, I can't do that because you're this color, or you're this religion, you follow this religion, you automatically shut yourself off from the world. And it's a very lonely place. Like, you are alone automatically when you hate. So yeah, I think that is very important. Children don't start that way. Children are very innocent. They're very cute. They're very, you know, open, and it's a wonderful place that they're in. And you just want to keep them there for as long as possible. But, you know, the world is different. The world outside of, you know, who they are, what they are, is very, very different. So yeah, you teach them first to respect and to love people for who they are, their personality, how, you know, how they treat you.
Are they good people? Are they,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
good,
yeah. Like, are they?
people?
Hold on, give me 1 minute.
While Germôna is going to turn on a light, I want to say that tomorrow Juan Eisler will be back, and he is going to be moderating our torn panel. And you're on that panel, right? Tomorrow night?
Yes, I am on that panel. Yep.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. There are some artists in our community who have suggested on their social media pages, and you're not one of them, you're not one of these artists, but there are some artists in our community who have suggested that our Black artists have to find ways to divest from their white institutions, white theaters, white organizations. Is that an answer to this, or is the better answer finding a door so that our white institutions are bringing Black, Brown, Latinx people to the table and creating more inclusive spaces?
I think that until we see that actually happening, and we see it more often, where the white institutions are bringing in the Black, Brown, Latinx, maybe we will have to do our own thing. Not saying that we necessarily want to, because we have tried to introduce ourselves into these predominantly white institutions. And there's been a lot of stories, of course, where we were treated less than fair. So I think that so much of that, and no repercussions, no consequence, no anything for the way that we've been treated, is causing some people to just be like, you know what, maybe we just need to create our own thing over here. Once we start to see more change, once we start to see that you are willing to listen and change, and you are willing to reprimand those who treat us unfairly, then maybe we could sit at the table and talk about, mingling again. But, that was a question in one of the, that was a question from the Riley Little Theater group. Someone asked, like, there was a dance company that, was predominantly white, and we always, as Black and brown people, we go in there and it's only, out of everybody, we're probably the only one or one of two or one of three, but you can definitely spot us, right? But if there is something where we know we can go there and we can dance and we can act or we can sing, and we know we won't be put on the back burner, and we won't be treated unfairly, and this is for us, this is for Black people and our talent and our showcasing of our talent, we will definitely go to that, and we will definitely try to create those spaces for ourselves. That is an option. that is an option, but that is definitely something that I don't have a problem with. That I don't see where that would be an issue. I feel as though we probably should. There probably should be, instead of trying to get a seat at the table, we need to build our own table and chairs. Because often we have just asked for simple civility, like just treat us civil. And we've been met with aggressive force, or we've been met with rebuttals of, just brushing us off, or we're overreacting, and we just don't know what we're talking about. But yeah, if these predominantly white institutions are willing to intertwine and be more inclusive, then yes, we will definitely be open to that, and we need that. But like I said earlier, I want to see an example. I want to see it actually happen. I understand it may take time, I guess, but I'm just trying to put my business mind on right now. I guess when you audition and you cast and doing all of that, it may take a little time, whatever. But yeah, I need to see more of it. And if it's not going to happen, then yeah, anyone who is Black, brown, Latinx, whatever, and they have the idea of creating a space for their people, go for it. And do that, and make and if that's the safe space, if that's the comfortable place for them, and then yes, I'm all for it.
Another thing I think we need to talk about when we talk about dismantling white supremacy, white privilege in theater and in the arts is funding.
Yes.
So can you talk to me about funding, and how you see we need to restructure our funding and how we fund the arts?
Oof. The bottom line is so sticky. Money is just, money is money. When you have the money talk, a lot of times funding plays a huge part in, will I cast this role to a Black or brown person? Will my demographic, the audience, be happy with this? Will I have continuous complaints about, why did you cast that person? Will funding be taken because I cast because I cast a LGBTQ person? Will it be taken because I cast a Black person? Will it be like Asian person for this? Like, in funding, because you're trying to keep the lights on and you're trying to continue to have people come through, plays a big part. But and it's easier said than done. I totally get it. I'm not telling anyone to just do this, but what risk are you willing to take in order to express that you are not going to not include everyone? I'm not going to make sure that you're comfortable. Like, I don't get it. When you cast the role, you cast it because of talent. You cast it because that person has that factor to spark, to ignite that role, to make that role come alive. You don't cast it because they're white or they're, you don't do that. But a lot of theaters have funding and sponsors from predominantly white or older, in an older demographic, sponsorships and fun. So I kind of get it. And once again, it's a sad situation because you don't want this to be taken away. You don't want the arts to be taken away from the community just because somebody doesn't like the fact that you cast a Black person in a role that they're not used to seeing a Black person in. But with that, it's just like, what risk are you willing to take? Are you willing to take that risk and possibly miss this bottom line? I think that was my phone. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. But it's just, funding is a tricky situation, and a lot of things are decided because of it. But me, and that's why a lot of conversations aren't had as well. But because as soon as you put something on your Instagram page or your Facebook page showing any type of support, or just, showing any type of, I'm here for this, and this, people will look at you different. People will say, well, you know what? I'm not coming back to your theater. I'm not going to frequent your restaurant. I'm not going here. I'm not going there. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And that's a lot of times, that's why people don't want to open their mouths as well. But yeah, funding is very tricky, and it all comes down to, if you are really verbal and serious about being inclusive, what are you willing to risk? So when you start your next season, are these roles, are more roles we're going to see more roles with Black people? And you don't even have to announce it. You don't have to say it. It doesn't even have to be Black shows. It doesn't have to be Black shows with predominantly Black cast. You don't have to. We're going to do the same shows that we said we were going to do, and that's it. And then when the audience comes, they just probably see a Black person playing that role. That's just what it is. And if it affects your bottom line,
well, you may lose patrons.
Yeah.
But think of the patrons that you might gain. We all talk about wanting to diversify our audiences.
Right.
So how are you going to do that unless you diversify your stage?
Exactly.
About that.
Yep. And I think that with that, that's totally true. With that, for every patron that you may lose, there are people who support with, who follow what you follow and who support you, and who are tired of the same old, and they're tired of these people not having the conversation, and they're tired of seeing a whitewash of cast, and they're totally for the diversity on stage. So for every patron you may lose, you may gain 6. And that's also, you know, but like I said, that's rolling the dice, but I would be willing to do that. I would be the type of person who is willing to do that. Because that's change. That starts somewhere. That's giving creatives so many chances. And that's giving creatives the chance to display themselves on a stage that they probably never thought they would be on. It's like Patrick, artistic director at RLT, he was saying during the meeting that he would like to do more of, would go to these communities of like, and speak to the communities, like Blood Done Sign My Name, or any like Black production, Latinx production, or whatever. Go to these communities and have these people whose story you're telling come to these shows and be more involved with the communities. And I think that's an awesome idea, because the more that these communities come out and they see the show, it's like word of mouth. They'll continue to do it. You'll continue to have people coming through and seeing these shows and looking at their story. These are their stories.
Or, yeah. Right. Or
exactly.
Whatever side
exactly.
of it. Exactly. Who knows what they're fun of.
Yep.
Can you talk to me about the intersection between art and activism, and what does that look like for you as an artist in the projects you choose to do?
So in my artistry, I use my artistry for my activism. I definitely think that, like Nina Simone, there are a lot of artists who I look up to, and they were talented, but they were also for their people. James Baldwin, like they would speak, Tupac, they would speak on things and just be, I'm an artist, but I also see what's going on in the world. I'm not just an artist. It plays a role for me, like as far as what I choose to act in, because I make sure that I don't water myself down. I make sure that the roles that I do most of the time have some type of meaning. I make sure that I love telling a story. Okay, I love telling the story. I love to just be in that and just telling us, whether it's like doo-wop, whether it's like, I think that is just the best thing ever, just to tell these stories. But I make sure that, just being a Black artist is it's just like so like invigorating. It's so great. It's so good. It makes you feel so good. And then knowing that I'm not just an artist, this is it, I fight for me as well. So when I hear about Black Lives Matter, and I hear about, police brutality and systematic racism, that includes me as well. It doesn't stop on those streets. It doesn't stop on in the corporate office. It affects theater. It affects everybody, as it affects every Black person on that stage as well. And I fight for me as a Black artist. And I fight for other Black people, other Black artists who may not have the voice right now. And I make sure that I've always wanted to, like, if I have children or whatever, I always wanted them, when they're grown and they look back on work that I've done, not just stage work. Like, that's cool. I did that. I studied that so I could be on stage. I love it. That's why I'm on stage. But also on the pavement, fighting for justice for our people. I love me, even more. So, and I love Black people. And it's just that, you know, when you look back and you're like, I'm done. I'm retired. I'm not stepping on no more stages. I'm not doing nothing else. When you look back, you want to tell a story of like, this is what I did. This is, you know, we went and we marched because this happened and it was not right. And I didn't feel it was right. And I had a voice and I used my voice. And so did this and we were doing this. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. And I think it has so much meaning. And I just don't want to be here. Like, I just don't want to. All right. Yeah. I always, right. I just don't want to be, okay, yeah, here and be, I mean, I want to do something history changing. I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of history. I want to be on the right side of history. I want to make sure that people know it's okay to speak up for yourself, to fight for what you believe, and to fight for not taking no shit. That's what I want people. I want people to understand, like, if we continue to not say anything, then they can do whatever they want. And we have to conform to it. That's not okay. We're living, breathing, thinking human beings. We have, you know, we have thought process. We have a thought process. We have feelings. Like we are meant to be in this world together. And of course, we're not going to agree on everything. We're different, but we're not meant to hold one set of people down because of a skin color. That doesn't make sense. It's not something that, you know, that's not something that's okay. And too many times throughout history, especially in the arts, artists haven't been able to express themselves or create the content or be able to display their talent on stage because of their color. And that's why I do what I do, because I speak for them. It's totally unfair to say no because you're Black.
Tell me about your foundation. So okay. Talk about putting your money where your mouth is, or right. Your activism. Talk to me about your foundation.
So Lamont Cliff Foundation for Science and Technology is named after my father. And it is a science and technology foundation that is mainly for predominantly Black communities and predominantly Black schools that are underfunded. So I would go to certain communities or certain schools, and I would do these sessions, and I would talk about science or technology. So I went to this one, I remember some sessions that I did at this one daycare called McDougal Terrace daycare in Durham, North Carolina. And I would come and I would do sessions twice a month. And during those sessions, one session we would talk about science, the other session we would talk about technology. And I would show these children, all Black, like it was all Black children. And I would show these children 3 to 5 years old that science and technology can be fun, and it applies to things that you do and that you like. Those iPhones, those games that you play, the Xbox, the PlayStations, all of that pertains to science and technology. So I think it's important that I have a foundation like this that can go to these schools and go to these communities to show these children these examples and actually be hands-on, because a lot of these communities don't get the funding for their students. I had teachers tell me that they hardly get funding for field trips. So they have to stay in the classroom all year round. And that's not the case for like a Durham Academy, right? Or a school that's predominantly white. And I feel as though the opportunities as far as science and technology goes should be offered to Black and brown children just as much as it's offered to their white counterparts. I went to 2 schools in Durham, Jordan High and Southern High School, and they were 2 different worlds, right? At one school, anything we needed, we got. At another school, anything we needed, we had to work for it. So we had to do fundraisers and stuff, which, I mean, hey, it builds character, right? But it's just like, those are just, at this school, it was the same things we needed as it was for this school. So it's kind of like, you know, we're not provided those same opportunities and that those same things and funding that the white counterparts are. So I thought Lamont Cliff Foundation would be a great way to provide those things, whether it be I come for a session and we have little iPads or Android tablets and we learn coding, something like that. Something fun for the kids to do. And they are so focused when they do these things. It's amazing. More focused than I think I was in high school when it came, when it came to stuff like that. But they are so focused and you can see like the spark in them because the curriculums are different in these schools. And it's just, you know, something like this to have them, especially hands-on, to have them have these little projects and to play and to actually touch and feel the different machines, different robots, and to watch videos and to answer questions about these things. It's just, it shows them that IT and science doesn't have to be one thing. It doesn't just have to be right or boring. Like, it doesn't have to be that. You know, it can be technical theater. It can be, you know, music, a producer, an engineer, like all these things that they love. Science and technology applies to that. So that's what Lamont Cliff does. It shows them that this world is grand, first of all, it never stops. It's nonstop, and it can be fun. And they're very privy to, like, they have a long attention span, but they're very like interested. They're very interested, and it's like, you know, comforting to me to know that if I am providing this, even if it's twice a month, they're expecting it. They can't wait. They're excited for it. And they are, you know, exposed to having these things in front of them and knowing that these are things that they can do. They don't just see it on the TV. You know, these are things that they can do. And as they get older, they, you know, they grow up and they remember these things and they know these things. And it was the same way for me, as far as, like, I was in the health field and I always wanted to do IT. I always wanted to be the person to control the robot because I think robots are just the coolest things in the world. So that kind of inspired me as well to create Lamont Cliff. And the way that science works, it's amazing. And I think that, you know, the funding, if we put the funding and we invest in these children, we will get the reward will be so spectacular, so extravagant, because they're very interested. They're extremely. The children
are gonna lead our way. I think.
Yeah.
I believe that anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And now, are you using your foundation and your platform now to feed people? Is that what I saw recently on your?
So I am. That was the beginning of the quarantine. So we did Lamont Cliff Lunches on Us. I almost forgot the name because I'm doing another one recently, in a while. But it was Lamont Cliff Lunches on Us, and it was giving essential workers a gift card, $20 gift card, 25, 30, somewhere in there, gift card to their favorite restaurant. And it was just like a thank you, You know, it was just like a thank you for, I know a lot of them have to be there, you know, don't want to be, but they have to be. So it was kind of like a thank you for doing this and for being there. And that was something that I thought that we did for 3 weeks, and I thought that like that would be a cool idea. And I thought, you know, maybe having, sorry, my thing keeps going out, but it's all good. Maybe having, you know, something like that to show that Lamont Cliff appreciates, and to also bring people into what Lamont Cliff was a great idea. We're doing another one. It's called Feed the City, Lamont Cliff Feed the City. And this one is kind of going to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to go to these communities, and I'm going to do, it's kind of like feeding them. So we're going to do like little lunch bags, and we're going to give them to the children or give them to whoever, people in the community. And it's called Feed the City. We're going to be accepting canned goods and things like that. So all of this stuff, because as of right now, I can't go to the schools. I can't do sessions. So all of this is what, you know, this is the alternative. And I don't even know if by the time school is supposed to start that they will be in the classroom. So right now we're just doing these different things to help the community. And then, you know, to bring in people and let them know like what Lamont Cliff is about, as far as science and technology, and having this foundation for the children, and making sure that they learn in a great way. And these are just, you know, these ideas are just things that I'm having right now, just because, you know, I had to conform for COVID. Corona is making me, you know, do certain things, back flips and back bends and stuff. But I think this is working out. And I'm very excited about the next campaign. And I will be taking like, you know, donations, whether it be canned food or monetary donations, probably in August. We'll see. I just need to see what we're going to do for COVID, if they're going to be in the classroom or if they're not. So yeah, I have a few teachers tell me that they're already planning for the first month at least to not be in the classroom. So we'll see how that goes.
And I will put a link to your foundation as well.
Okay.
Your personal social media pages also, so people can find you and
yes
keep up with your art and your foundation and all these amazing things you're taking part of.
Thank you. I'm just trying to stay busy too.
I'm
tired of resting. I'm trying to stay busy.
Well, I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much for being real and raw with me. I think these conversations are important, and I'm just gonna keep having them as long as
yes. I think they are very. I love what you're doing. I think these are very like. This is like just a breath of fresh air. Honestly, everybody is just. Like you said, some people are just afraid to share the mic, but it shows a lot of character and bravery for you to do this. And it will bring out more people. The people who are scared will not be scared and they will start to say things. And, you know, I think this is a great way. It's like you said, somebody has to lead, right? So here you are. And I definitely appreciate it.
Well, thank you for that. And people can tune in tomorrow night and see you and Juan on and the Torn panel. It's another great panel tomorrow night. Torn is Theater on Racist Negativity. They're going to have their live chat moderated by Juan Isler, starting at 7:30 tomorrow night here on Facebook Live. So tune in for that. Thank you, Germôna, for joining me. Watch the rest of the takeover on Instagram.
Yeah.
RDU on stage. Follow Germôna on social media. I'll put the links and just be kind to each other. Gosh.
Right.
Please.
Right. At this point, everybody should be tired. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to hate. So like it takes a lot.
So
right.
Just wear a mask. So we can get back to the theater. Right. Anyway, thank you so Rada, stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Enjoy your new place.
Yes.
I'm enjoying the neutral colors.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
And we will see you tomorrow night.
Yep. See you then. See you then. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.